So there's a very weird version of morality that exists on the internet that we've all seen before, where hypocrisy is treated as the worst thing you can do, above all the other things that hypocrisy entails, right? I'll give an example. We've all seen something like this before. There's Creator A, right? Creator A is openly racist. Like, they're all the time. They're just like, they don't care. They'll do it, right? And they are not good. Like, that's not a good thing. I hope we can all agree. Not a good thing there, right? Creator B is also on the side of like, that's not a good thing. He goes, that's not a good thing. You shouldn't be doing that. Yada, yada, yada. You know, we all get the gist there, right? So on the average day, Creator A probably commits like 20 hate crimes every second, right? And nobody cares. They get away with it. I mean, not that nobody cares. I'm sure, you know, there are repercussions of some sort, but for the most part, they are treated as just a freak who's off in the corner, and they don't see as much repercussion as Creator B, who, let's say, slips up, right? Despite having the right opinions, maybe something akin to a microaggression happens, or even just a misinterpretation of something. You know, a very small offense in the grand scheme of things, especially compared to Creator A's ugliness, right? Now, of course, we've all seen this play out before. Creator B will be attacked far more for this small slip-up than Creator A's overall giant amount of ugliness that they exhibit on a daily basis. In this way, hypocrisy, saying one thing and enacting another, even being interpreted as enacting another, is a crime that I believe is on the internet treated as greater than any other crime. I genuinely do believe this. I don't think if you asked people, they would say this. Like, I don't think if you did a poll right now and like, what's worse, racism or hypocrisy, people would say hypocrisy. No, I think the average person would know the right answer and they'd say the right answer, right? But definitely on how things are treated, how it works, hypocrisy is treated as the ultimate crime, right? And it can be about small things. Let's say there's somebody who is not just racist, but just like actually evil, right? We'll call this guy Creator C. And then there is Creator D, who isn't even doing anything. They're making any stances on anything, but they say one day that they really like eggs, and the next day they're caught eating eggs out in public, something that doesn't even matter. They will once again be attacked far more than the Creator C, who is just evil. Like, this guy could be just like a monster. He could literally be Dr. Doom on the internet, and he will face less repercussions, right? I saw this clip the other day that kind of got me thinking about this whole thing, where this creator was talking about like something bad going on. I don't actually know the full context of it. I just know it was an ugly opinion they held, and they were basically going like, yeah, no, I think that, but at least I'm honest. They'll go like, all these other guys think it too, but they're not saying it. I'm honest, right? And it got me thinking about like, why is this? Because for a second, in seeing this, I was like, maybe this is just a huge result of parasocial relationships, because we don't care about what people think. We want to feel like we know these creators on some level. I get like this with a ton of creators. It naturally happens when you watch somebody a ton, right? So, you know, that happens, and then you almost feel betrayed, and you have a more visceral reaction. You engage with the content more if there's hypocrisy. That's what I was operating on for a second, but I think it's actually multiple-fold, right? First of all, I think I do need to give credence to the very obvious thing that a lot of people are going to say here, that is in large part true, of like, people that exercise some sort of moral understanding will be treated with a higher standard, right? So like, back to Creator B, who said like, I think racism is wrong. Since they exercise the capacity to understand that, people will hold them to a higher standard, and maybe perhaps even out of good faith, when they do slip up or something like that, or make a mistake, or are interpreted as making a mistake, right? Everybody will maybe out of good faith, or sometimes not good faith, come out and be like, no, you're better than that, right? I obviously think that as much as this is somewhat of a legitimate line of reasoning to go down, and I think it does make sense, especially in something like an interpersonal relationship. Like, if you really knew a person, not an internet personality that you watched, like, if you had two friends, and you knew one friend really wasn't, like, you're not gonna get through to him ever on some things, you know, it can't even, maybe it's not even like an important thing. Maybe it's like, you just know this one friend is never going to like tomatoes in his life. You're probably not gonna offer to go tomato picking with that friend. Do people go tomato picking? I don't know, maybe. I feel like they pick apples, right? So why not tomatoes? Both red things. Both grow on a plant of some sort, I can only assume. But if you have a friend who is like kind of on the fence, you know, acknowledges that some dishes have great tomatoes, but some dishes he doesn't like the tomatoes, you'll ask that friend to go tomato picking because you understand, like, they're already halfway there. I gotta push them to be on the same page as me. Obviously, I think this is dumb and annoying when it comes to the internet. I'll be honest. I do think that there's a degree with which I think a lot of this just ends up being noise, and I think if, like, even if it is a good faith, which I think oftentimes it is, at least I like to believe it is, like, I think if all these people who out of good faith were finding little bits of hypocrisy and trying to hold people to the high standards they think they can hold them to, if all those people devoted the energy to actually correcting the behavior of the real ugly people that we all know the people we're thinking of right now, like, I think that would be more effective, right? Like, I think there's a degree to which you can make the argument that, like, a lot of this just comes out of people wanting to feel like they're doing a little something. And in that way, you know, it is annoying. I find it annoying. However, I do think the logic holds up in an interpersonal relationship if you have a friend and you're in a situation like that. So I do understand why, with the nature of the internet, people catch themselves thinking like that, right? I think there's another thing, though, of in groups on the internet and how they're the only ones that can actually do something, right? Because I think there's a big element that we're forgetting here. 99% of people, if you ask them, will be like, racism is wrong, right? Hopefully 100% of people watching this. Of course, when you see one of these creators who has these ugly opinions, you go, oh my God, like, you see it, you'll be like, this is stupid and dumb and wrong right away. You're not staying on that page for more than maybe 5 minutes. Like, you're like, I don't want to see this guy. Maybe you're not even offended. It's just like, this guy's an idiot. I don't care, right? I know, like, thinking of all the people in my life who are, like, on the internet, just like a normal amount, right? Of, like, they'll go on and they don't really comment, they don't really interact with anything, but they watch content. That's the exact reaction they have when, like, something like that happens. This is dumb. I'm gonna watch, you know, go back to watching edits of my favorite basketball players, or, like, you know, I'm gonna go back to watching edits of this video game I like. Stuff like that, right? It's going to be very much how that's gonna work. So, then who do you have left interacting on these pages? The people that really like it. Like, it's a crazy thing to say, but yeah, like, even everybody can find their niche on the internet. Even racists. And that's crazy, but that means that the 1% of people who are watching these creators will still have a 1% of that 1% of people who are, like, pro-racism or whatever will still be watching these creators and be like, yeah, no, this is sick. This is my jam. This is my stuff. And then since they have that very strong 1%, it doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? They're never going to gather enough people who are coming in there and watching consistently enough to actually change any minds on anything or get anybody to feel bad. As long as this creator is willing to be shameless in their whatever they do, right? And this goes for anything, honestly. We're talking about this in a fairly dense way of, like, you know, racism or whatever, because that's often what gets exhibited on the internet and what gets discussed. But, like, this can be as simple as, like, how video game niches work. It's all about, like, just garnering a percentage of people that like what you do, and then being like, all those people that don't like what I do, or don't like my personality, or think, you know, I'm ugly and gonna hate on me for that, or whatever it ends up being, right? As long as you shamelessly don't care about them and just cater to the people who do like what you're gonna do, you're gonna build a strong enough base where it doesn't actually matter what anybody says to you. You know, any attempt to take you down, or, like, you know, let's say people are like, oh my God, I hate this guy because he wears this purple hat. It's a really stupid purple hat, right? Nobody's ever gonna be able to stop you, because as long as you get enough people to successfully monetize, what are they gonna do? They can't do anything, you know what I mean? I mean, that's why, like, I feel like with the beginning of the internet, like haters have always been a thing, but it's so rare to hear about like, oh my god, the haters took him down. That doesn't really happen. I mean, it can, obviously. There are examples of it happening in some very sad cases, but like, it's very rare, because as long as you are willing to just be like, I'm going to ignore that and cater to this group of people, this is going to work, right? So there's almost like a shell of like, if you, so you have a crazy opinion that's held by 1% of people, as long as you're willing to put it out there, get over that wall of it hitting random audiences that are like, this is disgusting and I don't like this opinion, and then get over that hump to the point where you have just a solid enough base of people who are like, I love this guy's opinion, I'll die for this opinion because this guy's crazy like me, or whatever it ends up being. You know, maybe it's just this guy loves mushrooms as much as me. Then you're good. Like, so that's, I think, the other thing here is like, it's like people don't even consume, like they don't interact in the right spaces enough where they're the right, like, oh my god, these are the guys that are gonna go do something about that ugly opinion, which is fine. I guess that has to exist on the internet, right? Like, I don't know, I think there's a lot to be said about like doing spokesmanship on the internet or whatever, but there's definitely a misalignment of how audiences are going to perceive things, who's watching what, right? I think there's also a third thing that I think is kind of interesting here too, in perception of just like purely from a morality standpoint. The internet is a place where people like, they want to win, right? Like the internet works very much in terms of like, you're seeing metrics 24/7. Did people give this video a bunch of likes? They give it a bunch of dislikes? Does it have a lot of views, right? And I think inherently, this mixed with the nature of a lot of these things being very short form, right? Like, a great example of this, I can name everything about Kai Cenat. I know so much about this guy. I've never watched a Kai Cenat stream in my life. I just know because I've seen so many 10-second clips that I get his deal. I can explain very well what Kai Cenat does. No idea, I've never tuned into a stream. I don't even think I'm sub to him on anything. Like, don't think I follow him. But I've just seen enough clips where now I know, right? Since that's the nature of the internet, where you're getting these short little things, I don't think there's actually a situation where you're ever going to foster a conversation that is like, oh, okay, we can have two reasonable perspectives on this and end up here. I think like inherently you're going to end up with like, people want a clear right or wrong, win, lose, you know, risk, reward. They want things like this on the internet. Maybe they don't even explicitly want it, but because of the nature of how the internet works, it's what gets around. Maybe hypocrisy is the one thing that you can actually do that with. Like, when it comes to like me having a very well-articulated discussion with somebody on their feelings about morality and consequentialism and stuff like that, right? We could go on forever. They could contradict themselves 100 times, and that won't matter because you're just trying to get to the core of their thoughts and engage with that, right? So we're never gonna be able to keep a scoreboard, right? The objective thing though will be if one day I'm talking to this guy and he does not contradict himself in an effort to actually post his ideology, but just walks in one day and goes, you know, I think the exact opposite of what I think yesterday, and, you know, is being a hypocrite, that's easy. One on the board. You know what I mean? Like, because of the fact that hypocrisy is one of the only things that you can actually like, quantify and be like, got it. I think that leads to people on the internet focusing on it so much because the only actually objective sense of this is a bad person you can even try to get. Outside of some other things, but like, it's the only thing you can really quantify, you know what I mean? So I wonder if that's why too, because, you know, I can't actually, once again, I haven't consumed enough of these ugly content creators' opinions to successfully engage in them. Have no plans to, I just don't have enough time in my day, to be honest. So, I think the only two things I could actually get them on objectively and go, see, I have this over this person, is if I saw two different 10-second clips of them where they contradict themselves. I can 100% hold that on them. That's easy. I can hold that objectively and go, I saw this, I know this to be true, they're maybe dumb, but a hypocrite at the very least, right? I can't actually engage with anything more than that though, right? Because I don't actually understand it. So I don't know, I think this is I think there's a lot of angles as to why this happens, but I think it's interesting because it's like the internet as a whole, despite how disconnected and crazy and all over the place everything is, definitely does have a different set of rules that it plays by that sometimes do end up translating everywhere. And I think those rules are really interesting. and I think they tell you a lot. This is the painting. Bad idea on this composition, guys. I'll say it. I mean, like, I would love to tell you that I, messed it up and meant to execute a different way. I didn't. It's just a bad idea. So I'll take my L on this one. We got 2 more with this color palette. I know it's going a little bit longer than the other ones, but I definitely made too much paint when I was mixing these colors. So stay with me. 2 more days of this, then we're on a new color palette, guys. Go check this out over on the Instagram. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This has been Paint Talk episode 189. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.